were mainly held in bars and clubs. And it's, like I said, it started at 3 p.m. They gave everybody time enough to get to the club. And it was basically all held on Sundays. And it was individuals, like you and I could get together and rent a club, rent a bar, and we would give a cocktail sip, and we would get charge X amount of money to get in through the door.
Well, let me ask you something. What was some of the performers that came through the 521 Club?
You had Wilson Pickett came through. You had Sterling Harrison. A lot of people don't know, great performer out of Richmond, Virginia. You had the young man, his name was Billy something, but he sang Sitting in the Park. Sitting in the park, waiting for you. That Billy.
Mhm.
There was an agent that used to bring through a lot of the top acts, and the top acts only came through like on Thursday nights. Thursday nights was a go-getter when they would bring headliners through. There were a lot of dancers. Back in the day, they didn't call them strippers or anything because they didn't take off all their clothes, but they were dancers. And one of the famous ones was Princess Tomorrow. They had one of those maybe once a month or something like that. So we had the 521 Club and the Tip Top Club and the 531 Club. And then you had like a few other clubs that were on Fulton Street, like the Baby Grand, so forth and so on, that also gave those type of affairs.
Okay, let's talk about Franklin Avenue and Fulton Street. How did that work? Because I know that you have the shuttle right there. So
Right.
was it always congested, especially in the 60s and early 70s?
Well, in the 60s and the early 70s, there's been quite a few changes because now you can actually enter the shuttle upstairs. You come upstairs and go from Fulton Street itself. Back in the 60s and the 70s, you had to like walk up about 2 flights of steps to get to the L. And that train on that L took you to Coney Island. So a lot of people coming into Brooklyn that was going to Coney Island would catch the A train. They would catch the A train to Fulton and Franklin, and then they would come topside and they would walk up the steps and they would catch the L there. Nowadays, if you come off of the train at Fulton and Franklin, you walk right off of the street on Fulton Street, right into the subway station, and they have an escalator that goes up to the L.
Mm.
That train will take you to Coney Island.
Okay. And right there.
So that's a bit of a change because back in the days, you didn't have that interest down at street level.
Okay.
There were plenty of well-known venues, and like I said before, a lot of them were Black-owned venues.
Can you remember, or can you name some if you remember any of the stores at that particular time?
There was a hotel, quite famous hotel on Fulton and Franklin, and on Fulton Street, maybe about 3 or 4 doors from the L or from Franklin Avenue, there was a hotel, and the hotel was owned by a gentleman who had one eye, and they called him One-Eyed Percy. And One-Eyed Percy owned a hotel, and the hotel was called the ICU Hotel, which was like I don't know how he coined it that, right? But everybody knew about that particular place, and they knew about him because he only had one eye. In fact, he wore a patch so
Wow.
over his, I think it's left eye. So that was one of the places. There was another venue, the Elks Club. I don't know if you
Oh yeah,
ever remember.
yeah. I remember the Elks.
Okay, well, the Elks Club was another famous venue, and that was at Clausen Avenue and Franklin, 1 block away from the 521 Club. What I loved about the 521 Club mostly is because everybody from all of the other venues up and down Fulton Street at some time or another would pass through the 521 Club. And a lot of the people who patronize the 521 Club would also patronize those other venues. Um, you would have these different bands. 521 Club was Jim Elder and the Soul Twisters. You had another young man, I forget his last name. He was Charlie, but he could play it. He was a great guitar player. Uh, at the Elks Club, they had Buzz on bass, who was super. Just you had all of these musicians. I would venture to say 50, 60 musicians that worked up and down Fulton Street, and they were all great. Tommy Dent, good trumpet player, all of these people, man. And I'm going back 60 years, you know. So a lot of those gentlemen and ladies are no longer with us. But
I re I do remember when you said the Elks Club. I
yes,
remember um I I, I remember the Elks Club, and I also remember um the store directly across the street from the Elks, Nat Cooper's.
right, right. That's funny. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And there was also a tailor directly across. What it was more like on Downing,
Okay.
right on
Okay.
the corner of Downing and Fulton. And everybody went to this gentleman and another gentleman by the name of Brown on Nostrand Avenue to have all of their clothes made. Basically, just about everybody, especially the entertainers, patronized those two tailor shops.
Right. Right. Wow. I mean, I heard stories and about some of the talent that's established now, like the LaBelles used to go to the 521 Club and perform before before Patty was the Patty LaBelle, you
Right.
know.
Gladys Knight,
Wow.
the Pips performed at the 521 Club. I remember it was like a Sunday or Saturday or Sunday morning. Bubba and I shared a 3 or 4 block walk down to Nostrand Avenue in Fulton, and we both grabbed the hot sauces together and walked
Wow.
back to the 521 Club. Interesting story